I remember when the PS5 console came out, and I was very excited to get my hands on one. The controller looked so cool, and the console looked very different compared to the PS4 Slim that I had. It wasn't until about 7 or 8 months later that I was able to finally get my hands on my own console with a copy of Ratchet & Clank Rift Apart. I sadly had to work that day, but luckily I was still working remotely. I remember not being able to keep myself from the console and would occasionally just stare at the controller, looking at its intricacies and the different design compared to the DualShock 4. Leading up to then, I'd already seen many videos and articles discussing the poor quality of the Dualsense's analog sticks and how many of them would get stick drift over time. I thought I'd be lucky and not get stick drift, since the PS4 controller that I got back in 2018 still worked perfectly and still does to this day. Little did I know that I would be so wrong. So just a quick summary, I've had about 4 different DualSense controllers and all of them have had stick drift. It's sad knowing that Sony to this day keeps advertising and releasing new colors of the exact same controller. Now every time I see a new color, I get less and less excited about them because I know that eventually it will get stick drift as well. For context, I bought the PS4 that I currently have with only one additional controller, about 6 years later, and they both still work fine. No stick drift, no issues. With Hall effect joysticks having been around for way longer than the DualSense's official release, it seems like a massive oversight for Sony to choose not to release their controllers with them, given that would be the most consumer-friendly approach. But the more I think about it, the more I realize that Sony is a company that aims to make as much profit as it possibly can. With that, it is understandable that they would rather continue selling the same product that is susceptible to the same issues over and over again. Seeing the new colors and the newer, cooler, nicer designs would make any consumer want to buy more. This way, Sony does not have to improve what already works. The release of the DualSense Edge is just another example of this. Instead of changing the core of the sticks that they used, Sony opted to sell a controller with the same issues, but instead create a whole different mechanism that would rather support you swapping out the sticks than ensuring that they use a version that would not get stick drift. This way they ensure that even when you purchase the top of the line Pro controller, you are inevitably still subject to the same issues you would face with a normal controller. I honestly really like the DualSense and the features the controller has. I just wish that each controller had longer legs. I mean, the 4 controllers that I have were all used in conjunction with another controller. A few months after getting my PlayStation, I got a black controller because it looked so sleek. Both the original white one and the black one were both used interchangeably to avoid stick drift, but it still happened. I later got a blue controller, which was used with the black one, because I accidentally fried the motherboard of my original white controller by accident. Honestly, it was an accident. I was experimenting with some stuff. But anyway, I later got one earlier this year. But right now, all 3 controllers, so the blue, the black one, and the camo one, which I recently got, all of them have stick drift, which is just sad, really. The thought of getting another controller sucks, really, because now I know that it may also get stick drift too. As beautiful as the newer controllers look, I really can't bring myself to get excited for them anymore. In this case, I honestly think that I may be the problem. Maybe I just game too hard, and maybe the solution is getting a Pro controller or an alternative to like the DualSense with the Hall effect sticks. And well, maybe that is a solution, but like I said earlier, I really do like the DualSense's features and its form. So getting an alternative one isn't really what I'd be looking for, which then leaves the only option is getting the DualSense Edge. Due to my current financial situation, the DualSense Edge isn't feasible really. While I would really like to get one, that just places me right where Sony would want me to be. Buying a controller with replaceable analog sticks that were made to keep me buying more, because I clearly have this glaring issue with stick drift. The only other solution that I didn't mention is probably just swapping out the sticks, and honestly, I've tried that too. A little while ago, I purchased a whole soldering kit, thinking that I had what it takes to swap out my analog sticks. The plan was to swap out the analogs from the controller whose motherboard I fried, and then place them in one of the other 2 controllers. And yeah, I failed. I failed royally. That just never worked. To add on to what I've said, I know that the Hall effect analog sticks are not perfect either. They require soldering knowledge to install and calibration to ensure that they work properly. And even then, they don't feel quite as good as the magnetic analogs. But that seems like a little sacrifice compared to always struggling with the way you interact with games. I mostly play action games and shooter games, so having stick drift kind of sucks. Funny that most of my controllers have had stick drift on the right analog sticks. Only one of them had it on the left, so whenever I'm playing any games or anything, my camera is essentially uncontrollable, which makes aiming become a bit more, well, a lot more challenging, and makes the game a bit more frustrating than they normally should be. I guess I just really wanted to put this out there. From a personal experience point of 3 years with the PS5 and 4 controllers that essentially all succumbed to the same fate. I know that this video won't necessarily change much, but I still wanted to share. Having played games for years and not generally having issues with stick drift, to having one console that just became the worst in that regard, I thought I'd just share my perspective on this matter, really. If you enjoyed this video, please consider subscribing. I have a lot more content planned and I'm really interested in growing this channel. You may have seen some of my other videos. If not, please check them out on the channel. And yeah, enjoy the rest of your day, night, evening, whatever.